What's up? What's up? It's your man Jimmy Chan. All right, let's get this started with question number 1. Okay, so it wants you to write in the point slope form passing through these 2 points, which is 3, 2 and 4, 7. Okay, so it wants the point slope form. Question is, what's the point slope form? Well, the point slope form is this: y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1, where the point is x1 comma y1, and then the m is your slope. Okay, so the given point would be that. So we have 2 points. We have to find the slope. Well, we know how to find the slope when we're given 2 points. So typically what I would do is take this, duplicate it, and I typically like to stack them, right? So I stack them this way, and when I stack them, I do this. So I'll do 2 minus 7 over 3 minus 4. Okay, so that keeps me organized and I won't get them mixed up. I will, obviously keep the order of it. And the slope is obviously the change in y over the change in x, or rise over run. So this is going to be a -5 over a -1. So therefore, my slope is equal to 5. Okay? So it gives me 2 points, and so I can use either point. It doesn't matter which point I use. So let's say I use 3, 2 with the slope of 5, right? If that is the case, then my point slope form would be y minus 2, which is my y value, is equal to 5 times x minus my 3, which is my x value. All right, so that's that one. Now, typically, if I want this to be a slope-intercept form, I can continue on and get y by itself, and then I will have my slope-intercept form. Okay. Now, I could also use the point 4, 7 with my slope of 5. If that's the case, then I have y minus 7 is equal to 5 times x minus 4. And that would be my other point, or my other equation. And that right there would be choice A. I guess I don't need that part really. There we go. All right. And there is problem number 1. Problem number 2. Problem number 2 wants the same thing. So I have a point that is -5, -3, and another point that is -3, -8. All right. So again, I take these 2 points. I like to stack them on top of each other, like so. And then the change in y is going to be a -3 minus a negative 8. And that's where the major mistakes are being made, right? When you guys forget that it's a negative 8 and you kind of mush that with a subtraction. All right, so please be careful with that. And this one here is going to be a negative 5 minus a negative 3. Okay, so what do I get here? I get a negative 3 plus 8 over negative 5 plus 3, because minus a negative becomes an addition. So I have a 5 over 2, negative 2. Okay, so my slope is going to be negative 5 halves. All right, so again, I'm going to use the first point here, which is negative 5, negative 3, and the slope is negative 5 halves. So I have y minus a negative 3, because that is my y value, is equal to negative 5 halves times x minus a negative 5. Let's finish this up. So that means I have y plus 3 is equal to negative 5 halves times x plus 5. So that's if I use that point. However, if I use the second point, which is negative 3, negative 8, and the slope being negative 5 halves, then I'll have y minus my negative 8 is equal to negative 5 halves times my x minus my negative 3, which is my x value. All right, so let's finish that up, and that's going to be y plus 8 is equal to negative 5 halves times x plus 3. All right, so that would be my final answer there, and that is going to be choice C. There we go. Boom. All right, on to number 3. Okay, number 3. I can fit it on the rest of this page here, so I will. So this one is giving 2 points again, and the 2 points are 2, negative 1, and 4, negative 7. And it wants you to find distance. Well, the distance formula is known as this. D squared, you know what, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it that way. D squared is equal to x minus x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, or the difference. Okay, now the question is, why is this the case, right? So now you're going to try to remember this formula, which is great, but in actuality, I want to kind of put some perspective on here. So let's say I was to plot these points here, right? So I got my y-axis here, and my x-axis, let's say, is here. Okay, so here's my x, here's my y. Now 2, negative 1 would be right here, and 4, negative 7, 2, 4, 6, 7 will be right here, right? 4, 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, so essentially I have a line that looks something like that. Okay, so if you look at this, you can see that I really have a right triangle. And the relationship of the sides is actually a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the c squared is special, or the c is actually special because that's a hypotenuse, right? So this is the hypotenuse. Okay, so that's a hypotenuse. So that's going to be c, and then the a and b doesn't really matter which one. Those are called legs, all right? So essentially, A is the distance from here to here, right? So if I was counting it, 2, 4, 6. So A is actually 6, and B is actually 2. So that means I'll have 2 squared plus 6 squared, and that will give me C squared, which is my distance, okay, that I'm looking for, okay? So if that's the case, then I will have 4 plus 36 equals c squared. So c squared would equal to 40. So c would equal the square root of 40, and I'll have to break that down. Okay, so essentially I can do the same thing by just drawing the graph out and seeing exactly that, right? This way I don't have to even remember the formula, because now I can actually get the distance right off the graph. All right, so that's something to think about there. All right. Let me erase this here. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. So d squared is equal to the difference in x's. So I got, let's say, 2 minus 4 squared plus the difference in y, which is -1 minus a -7 squared. Okay, so let's see here. This is d squared is, well, let me do it this way. So what I actually have here is that this is -2 squared plus, this is 1 plus 7. Well, I'm sorry, -1 plus 7. What's -1 plus 7? That's 6 squared. Okay, so that means my d squared is equal to 4 plus 36. So now I have that d is equal to the square root of 40. Okay, let's break down 40. 40 is 2 times 20. 2 is done. 2 times 10. 2 is done. 2 is done. 2 times 5. All right, so because the index, which is this part right here that I'm talking about, let me use a different color here, which is the number in that wedge. So if there's no number in that wedge, that means that index is a 2, or we also call it the root. Okay, so that means it's a 2. So we're looking for pairs, and if we look right here, what we actually have here is a pair of 2s, and then we have left the 2 and the 5, right? Because the 2 and the 5 doesn't have a pair. There's not another 2 in there. There's not another 5 in there. So those guys don't have a pair, so they can't come outside the house. All right. So with that being said, that means my D is equal to my pair of 2s that came out, and then inside the house is going to be that 2 times 5, which is 10, because they don't have a pair. So that would be my answer. And in that case, that is going to be choice A. Okay. There we go. All right. To number 4. All right. Number 4. That shit out of there. Number 4 is giving me 2 points, but it wants to find the midpoint this time. So I got 4, 7, and 7, -6. And it wants me to find midpoint. So usually I shorten this to just MDPT, just so you guys know, as midpoint, which makes sense. All right. So midpoint is kind of like the average, right? Where would it be in the middle of those 2 points? Yes, you can definitely graph it and go, okay, where's You know, if it's equidistance, where would it be, right? Where would the center be? But the center is also considered to be the average. So what I can do is the midpoint would be this. It's x2 plus x1 divided by 2, y2 plus y1 divided by 2 as well. So it's kind of like averaging two exams. We would add the two exams together, divide by 2, and you have the average. All right, so that's exactly what I would do. So the midpoint here would be 4 plus 7 divided by, divided by 2, comma, 7 plus a negative 6 divided by 2 as well. So that would be my midpoint. So that's going to come out to be what? 11 halves and 1 half. So that would be the point, right? 11 halves, comma, 1 half. That's actually going to be a point, like a midpoint. So it's going to be a coordinate, all right? So that choice is going to be choice A. All right. There we go. All right, to number 5. All right, number 5. All right, so it looks like I'm given the center of a circle and the radius of the circle. So the center is going to be 3, 5. And the radius is going to be square root of 19. All right. So with that being said, what you guys got to know is that a circle the formula for a circle is this. It is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And of course you're saying they're going, whoa. What the heck did h and k come from, right? You know what the r means. That is the radius, okay? So h comma k is your center. And the r is your radius, okay? So with that being said, now let's just plug it in. So I have x minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared is equal to square root of 19 squared, okay? So I don't have to do anything with the x minus 3 right now because it's not asking me for a standard form. So y minus 5 squared, and the square root of 19 squared is just going to be 19. All right, so that is going to be answer C. All right, there we go. All right, number 6. Number 6 is asking for the same thing. So center is going to be 6, 5. And my radius is going to be 6. All right. So I'm going to plug it in. x minus 6 squared plus x, not x, y minus 5 squared is equal to 6 squared. So my answer is actually going to be x minus 6 squared plus y minus 5 squared is going to equal to 36. All right? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be answer number A. There we go. All right, on to number 7. All right, so there's 7. All right. So number 7, if you read the direction, it says complete the square and write the equation in standard form. Okay. All right, so I have x squared plus y squared plus 6x plus 4y is equal to 3. Okay? So here we go. There's a bunch of motorcycles everywhere right now, so that's why I'm checking out and pausing as I'm going. All right, so if you guys remember completing the squares, right, it's where we kind of got, the a the equal to 1, and then we also got like a bunch of other things that we had to do, which included finding a new c. All right, so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to find a new c. So I'm going to show you how to find a new c. So the first thing we're going to do is this. We're going to group the x's together, group the y's together, and leave all the numbers that stand alone on the other side. So here we go. If I'm correct, I have x squared plus 6x. Those are my x's. I have y squared plus 4y. And the number that stands alone is already by itself on the other side, so I'm good. Right? Because when we did completing squares, we moved the OC to the other side. Right? So now we're completing the square. What did we do? We looked at this right here. Okay, actually, let me see if I can do this here. No. How about now? Yeah. So what we did was the new c is equal to b divided by 2 squared, which is equal to 6 divided by 2 squared, which is equal to 3 squared, which is equal to 9. Okay? So 9, we're going to add 9 to this side, and we're going to add 9 to this side. Then we're going to look at the red one. All right, and we're going to do the same thing. So this new c is going to be b divided by 2 squared, which is equal to 4 divided by 2 squared, which is equal to 2 squared. And that's equal to 4. So we're going to add 4 to this side and add 4 to this side. All right. So the next thing I want to do, I want to show you guys this really quick. I'm going to change that right there to be trying to think of a good color here that doesn't like skew anything for you. Should I try an orange? No, let's go fuchsia. And let me change this 2 to like a green or purple. No, let's go green, just so you can see the difference in the colors. Okay, so I'm always going to tell you to do the work. all right? Obviously, I know that you guys know that 4 divided by 2 is 2, that 6 divided by 2 is 3. I know that, but write it out. Trust me, it's going to help, okay? So next thing we're going to do is we're going to factor each of these trinomials and add up what we have on the right side. So when I factor this blue one here, it's going to be a x plus 3 squared. And then I'm going to add here the y plus 2 squared. And that's going to equal to 3 plus 9 plus 4. 3 plus 9 is 12. 12 plus 4 is 16. Okay? So, that's exactly what we do. All right? So, in other words, first that we had to do was what? We had to group x's together, group y's together, and move c's to other side. Okay, so that was the first thing we had to do. Second thing we had to do was to find a new c, which is equal to b divided by 2 squared, and add to bothy sides, right? Actually, I should probably put a caveat here. Find new c for x's and y's, and add them to both sides. There we go. Okay. And then last, we had to factor the x's, factor the y's, and add or subtract other side. Okay, so there it is. So those are my steps for doing that. All right, so now that is going to be my answer right there, and that is going to be number 7 is my I still got to give the radius and the center here. All right, so the center here is going to be -3 comma -2, because remember it's x minus h and y minus k, and my radius is what you're going to be tripped about, is actually going to be 4, because the 16, right? Remember, the 16 was actually r squared. So if 16 is r squared, that means if we take the square root of both sides, we will get the 4. Okay? So that would be my answer, and that is choice B. Let me see, and I gotta give you both here. Oops. There we go. There's 7. Okay, 8. I can probably keep it in here. Had to figure that part out. All right, 8 gives me, it wants the same thing. So I got 8x squared plus 8y squared is equal to 64, right? All right, so with this one, I don't have a b, and my c is already on the other side, right? So, but here's what I do have. I have a GCF of 8 on the left side, so I got x squared plus y squared is equal to 64. And if I divide 8 from both sides, I get x squared plus y squared equals to 8. All right? So, what does that mean? Well, what did I, what kind of h did I subtract x by to get x squared? It'd be 0. What did I subtract the y by to get just y squared, which is also 0? Because, so, in other words, I'll put it this way. So, if I said this x squared right here, okay, so I'd be x minus h squared, right? So this would be x minus 0 squared to get me x squared, right? And for the y, it'd be y minus k squared, which would be y minus 0 squared to get me y squared. Okay, so in other words, my center here is going to be 0, 0. All right, so take that, delete that. So that means my center is going to be 0, 0. Right? Well, don't forget, this here is my radius squared, which is 8. So that means r is going to give you the square root of 8. Right? So if that's the case, then my radius is going to be 2 square root of 2. Okay? So again, this right here would break down to be square root of 2 times 2 times 2. And then I have a pair of 2's here with 1 left over, right? So that means this right here would be what's highlighted in fuchsia, okay? So, and then obviously the 2 that's left inside is highlighted in black. So that, number 8 is choice D. There we go. All right. So that's 8. Number 9. Number 9. All right. So it wants you to find which graph, and it gives you this, right? X minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to 4. Okay. So my center is going to be 2, 3. And my radius is going to be just a plain old 2, okay? So, and my center is 2, 3, and my radius is 2. That means it's going to be choice B. There we go. All right. And on to number 10. All right, where's 10? Ooh, all right. So when you guys first look at this, you're thinking, oh no, we gotta do transformations again. Do we have to do more transformations? But if you read it, it says use the vertex and intercepts to sketch the graph of the quadratic function. Okay, so I don't need this sheet anymore. So what it's trying to do is this. So number 1, so we're talking about quadratic functions. Okay, so quadratic functions says this, that f of x is equal to a times x minus h squared plus k, assuming that a is not equal to 0. Okay, so again, this h and k shows up again. Well, what the heck does that mean? And what does the a mean? Okay, so the a is this. So, let's undo that. So, let's do that. I like it. All right. So what the a is trying to say is this: if it's a positive a, then the parabola is going to smile. And if it's a negative a, the parabola is going to frown. Okay, so that's number one. And your vertex is the point h comma k. Okay, so with that all being said, let's take a look at this. So what does this tell me? Well, my a is equal to negative 4. So that means I'm going to be frowning. Okay? And if I was to rewrite this, I can write this as f of x is equal to negative 4 times x minus a negative 5 squared plus 1. Okay? So that means my vertex is going to be a negative 5 comma 1. Okay? So there's my vertex. All right? And you're like, what's a vertex? That's probably a good question too, right? So on a parabola, the vertex, let me do this. Let me change this right here to a different color, like green. Okay, so the vertex would be your minimum or your maximum, right? Where that peak point is before it turns, or where that bottom of the parabola is, or where the top of the parabola is. That's your vertex. That's what that point is standing for. So negative 5, 1 means it's going to peak at that point because my a is a negative. Okay? So I got my vertex. And it tells you to use intercepts. Well, I can find my y-intercept, right? So how do you find y-intercept? Well, y-intercept, what I know about y-intercepts is that x is always equal to 0. Okay, so let's find f of 0. Well, that's going to equal negative 4 times 0 plus 5 squared plus 1. Well, that's going to give me a negative 4 times 5 squared plus 1. So it's going to equal to negative 4 times 25 plus 1. Oy. So f of 0 is going to equal to negative 99. Oy. That's going to be a little bit off the graph. Okay? Just a little bit off the graph. All right? So that's one of my intercepts. Question is, do I want to try to find my other intercept? Okay, so let's keep on going. Let's find our x-intercept. Okay, so my x-intercept is always when the y is equal to 0. So in other words, what I would do is say, okay, I have 0 is equal to negative 4 times x plus 5 squared plus 1. And you're like, I don't know how to solve this. But you do. You actually do. All right? So we've done this before, either in 1033, most likely in 1033. Basically, you're trying to get this squared by itself first. So I got to subtract 1 over. So I'm going to have a negative 1 is equal to negative 4 times x plus 5 squared. Then I'm going to divide by negative 4. So I'm going to have a positive 1/4 is equal to x plus 5 squared. Then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So what I'm going to do is copy or duplicate this and put down here and move this back a little bit so that I can show I'll have to take the square root of this side and this side. The only difference is that I'll have to have that plus and minus. All right. So I'm going to have plus or minus 1/4 is equal to x plus 5. Then I got to subtract the 5. So x is going to equal to negative 5 plus or minus 1/4. That's going to give me two answers. I have negative 5 plus 1/4 and negative 5 minus 1/4. Either way, I need a common denominator. Okay, so let me go ahead and duplicate this again. Except I want to move this up just a tad so I can put a 1 underneath it. And what I need to do is multiply top and bottom by 4. Okay, so what do I get? I have x is equal to negative 20/4 plus or minus 1/4. Okay, so what are my two answers? I have negative 24 plus 1/4, so I got negative 19/4. And my other one, let's not do the arrow, let's just use an arrow. And the other one is going to be negative 24 minus 1/4, which is negative 21/4. All right, so these gives me 2 points. This right here gives me the point negative 19/4, comma 0. And this one right here gives me the point negative 21/4, comma 0. Okay. All right. So basically, negative 19/4 is what? It'd be not quite 5, right? It's between 5 and 6. No, I'm sorry, between 4 and 5, and the negative 21/4 is between 5 and 6. Okay, negative on the negative side. And this up here, when I did the y-intercept, this gave me a point as well, right? This gave me a point that was going to be 0, comma negative 99. All right, so sometimes the intercepts would help me, but with these numbers, it doesn't seem to help. But I can say that, you know, at least I know where the y-intercepts are located. It's located on the negative side, right, of the graph. No big deal. And then I have all the rest. So I do know that this is frowning. I do know where the vertex is. And so this is the other thing I would tell you. If the intercepts don't help a lot, then what you want to do is then go into actually making a chart, right? As I said before. And your chart is going to do this. With your chart, because the vertex is negative 5, 1, I would put that right in the center. Then pick 2 points to the left of that, 2 points to the right of that, and then plug it in to that equation. So I would do, this would be negative 4 times negative 7 plus 5 squared plus 1. This would be negative 4 times negative 6 plus 5 squared plus 1. This would be negative 4 times negative 4 plus 5 squared plus 1. And this would be negative 3. I'm sorry, not negative 3, still negative 4 times negative 3 plus 5 squared plus 1. All right, you can directly plug this into your calculator if you want to, but if we go through it, here it is. -7 plus 5 is a -2. Square that is a +4 times a -4 is going to be a -16. -16 plus 1 is going to be a -15. Okay. All right. So -6 plus 5 is going to be a -1. Square that is still 1. +1 times the -4 is now -4 plus 1 is going to give you a -3. You can certainly check the -5. It will give you that 1. And then -4 plus 5 is a +1. Square that, still +1 times the -4. -4 plus 1 is still -3. And then here, -3 plus 5 is a +2. +2 squared is +4. +4 times -4 gives you a -16 plus 1 gives you a -15. So now you have points that you can actually graph, right? So this one right here will give you -7, -15. This point right here will give you -6, -3. This point right here is your vertex. This point right here will give you -4, -3. And this point right here, it gives you -3, -15. Now, notice what happens with the y values, guys, right? The y value went from -15 and it ended up at -15. It then was to -3, and it's second to the last is also -3. So in other words, from the vertex, both sides of the vertex is still going to act the same way in terms of the y value, okay? So please remember that. So when you're doing that and you got the vertex and you start plugging it in and those numbers starts getting wacky or not the same, then you know that something is wrong, okay? Something is very wrong, and it's probably something to do with the math, or you have the wrong vertex, or something like that, okay? But anyways, with all of that being said, yes, if it was on the test, then yes, with a vertex of -5, 1, you already knew exactly which graph it was, right? However, on the lab work, you got to make sure that you're doing what it's asking you to do. It says use the vertex and the intercepts. So I found the vertex, I found the y-intercept, I found the x-intercept. That will also get me the same graph. But if on the exam, if it doesn't, you might want to use a chart rather than trying to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, especially when it gives you wacky numbers like this, okay? But as you're looking at it and the vertex being -5, 1, then you already know that's going to be choice B. And there you go. All right. I hope that if there's any questions, you're willing to ask. And I'll talk to you later. See ya. Bye.